Welcome to the final part 4 of the finale of From Mill to Still. Hi, I'm Robbie Delaney. My wife Caroline and I started Muddy River back in 2011 with 35 bottles a day and a still named Freedom built in my parents' backyard. Year by year, we steadily grew the company into 6,000 square feet, our second location, taking our 30 bottles a day production to 1,300 bottles a day production. This is our first 4-year barrel done. We've outgrown our space in Belmont, so now we're moving the entire production upriver, up the Catawba, up Dutchman's Creek. Our new home will be the Mount Holly Cotton Mill, where we're doing a full historic restoration.
No, I'm making donuts. Prefer donuts.
Right now we just do the tours and tastings, but we're moving to Mount Holly in April.
Going from 6,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet, we'll not only manufacture, bottle, and package our rum, we'll also have a full-service cocktail bar with a restaurant, private event spaces, a venue for concerts, shows, and festivals. Follow along as we transform this property from mill to still. Thank you for following this entire thing as far as you have. If you're new to this and you're just now seeing my face, please go back and check out the channel and all the previous episodes, 100 and something episodes maybe, that went into this whole restoration project. I am super stoked to be ending in the cellar, my favorite room in this entire building. Second favorite, maybe to the third floor. My favorite room in this entire building, the cellar, where we do the distillation and the fermentation for the rum that we make as a company. Muddy River does everything on the first floor, and we do it all down here, from fermentation to distillation to packaging. Bear with me in this episode, in this part, as we go through how all of that got put into place. Fermentation. Fermentation is the first part of a process in a rum distillery. We ferment molasses, sugar, water, and yeast. The recipe is pretty simple, and we do it in these tanks that I'm surrounded by. These tanks came from a brewery in Youngsville, and Starship over here we got from Elon Musk. Just kidding, kind of. This is really cool. Right now we are fermenting about 5,000 gallons of molasses wine, and this will be distilled into our rum. So when we were putting the tanks into the building, the first thing was the tanks show up, right? So either we took them from Belmont, which was fun and interesting, or we had them shipped here from wherever we purchased them from. In the case of the 60-barrel fermenters, those came from out of town, so they were shipped in on tractor trailer, and they came on cradles sideways. So we brought them into the room, and then we simply picked them up with a forklift, and that's pretty easy. When it came to Starship and other tanks around here, that was a little more difficult because we had to remove them from operations. So we had to decommission them in Belmont, turn them on their sides. We're really good at picking tanks up, but not as good at putting them back down. So we had to figure out how to do all that. We laid the tanks down, and pretty much everything that was in Belmont, and I'd say literally everything in Belmont, came over on our trucks. So it was really cool to see Starship go through town and come out, and we had Jordan, Jake, Justin, and I think even Marty helped with pulling Starship out. So that one was pretty intense, laying down and removing from Belmont, but once it was in Mount Holly, we were all set and everything was easy to set it back up. After that, you level the tanks off, plumb them up, and hook them up. You see refrigerant lines throughout the building, and those are running glycol. So these tanks require refrigerant to maintain specific temperatures. We actually put in 450 feet of glycol piping to cool the fermenters and the stills. So that's pretty cool. We brought over our chiller from the original location, and that is sitting on top of the retaining wall here in Mount Holly. And yeah, that was it. We got fermentation going, and from there it was a matter of time before the stills were up and running. Once the cellar was up and running, we could then switch our focus and attention to distillation, right? So doing our first batch of fermentation kind of set a 30-day timer. You have 30 days of fermentation before you're ready to distill. And so we put in our stills, taking those out of Belmont. We have democracy, liberty, and independence. And it wasn't just remove and reinstall. These all got new control systems in the new facility, which had to be wired in and plumbed in. These all required intense cleaning. We put new gaskets and everything. We welded a bunch of new fittings into most of these tanks, things that we just always wanted and said, hey, well, we got the thing sideways on the ground, might as well weld in these pieces. So a lot went into moving these. They also have a bunch of new parts. In Belmont, the stills had a false wall behind them. And so you couldn't see the plumbing and the wiring where you can here. It wasn't on display in the other place. So the copper took, you know, quite some time to get in and make right. And so, you know, we just wanted that to be perfect. And now they're here. They're all plumbed together from a cleaning in place standpoint and plumbing standpoint. The drains will eventually be worked into a regen system, which is really cool. It's a future video that we'll talk about later. Not a mill distill video, just a distillery video. And yeah, they're here and they are successfully making booze. So we hit our deadline 30 days after fermentation. We were able to actually distill in this room, and it's really cool. We don't cover them with sleeping bags anymore. They're in their own room, and they just look awesome. So super excited about that. Let's go check out where the distiller actually stands when they're making the product. We're in the Distillers Cockpit. It's a mix of old and older and absolutely nothing new. Starting with the entrance to the cellar here, you have the original main entry to the building. We've relocated the door to here, and that's really cool because on the other side of this door are the stills and the fermenters. So the smells and the temperatures are in that room, while we as distillers are safely tucked away in our cockpit here. We have our own air conditioning. The stills come through the wall into here, so we're doing all of our distillation from literally, you can stand right here and run everything as if it was designed specifically so. I'll give you a minute to soak that in. So all the controls are done from right here, like the old place, except for separate in a separate room. While distilling, you can simultaneously, which we've always done, simultaneously make your mash. So up here, we have our new mix tank. Our new mix tank has a scale, and so we weigh our ingredients in. Everything is super, super precise. Before it was kind of close enough situation, and we mixed our mashes 300 gallons at a time. Now we can mix 850 gallons at a time, so that's really cool with our new mix tank, which by the way came out of Big Boss Brewing. There's a long story behind that, but that's for another time. So yeah, we mix it over here, and we can pump this into the other room and distill it or ferment it and then distill it later. And I'm super excited. This cockpit is working out really well, and it just makes the whole distilling process more comfortable. Over here you can see our part of our controls. This is on the cooling side. So we run about 4,000 gallons of water through machines through a distillation, and that water is then recaptured in our mix tank, Big Boss here, or it's recaptured in a hot liquor tank for use for swelling barrels and other cleaning needs we have in the distillery. So we're doing the same thing. We also have 3,000 linear feet of piping in the concrete. So when it really gets cold here in the winter, we can heat the building with our distillate cooling water. So that's what this control panel is right here. If you come over to the side over here, you will see the main control box. This is on a 200 amp breaker. So we're running 480 volts to control the entire distillery. And this can be controlled through a computer, through the screen, through your phone, through the TV over there. It's pretty magnificent. So thanks, Trevor. A little quick shout out to Trevor for helping take what was sketchy and built by me and make it a legitimate thing that has, you know, so many redundancies and professional controls built into it. I really think this is cool, especially because this cellar control, originally this box came from Sundrop. So even this control has old stuff at its origin. So that's really awesome. And that's it, that's the factory. So at this point, you've seen that we can make a mash, we can ferment that mash, and then we can distill it. And then I'll take you through, you know, what do we do with the distillate once we get it. So if you look over here really quick, you can see we've got a permanent and official parking space for our OG forklift here. Behind it are the welders. And if you have been here before, you'll recognize we have Yeti cups shoved into the corner. Yeti cups shouldn't have fit right there. And there's no video footage of us putting it right there, but definitely never going anywhere. It's there forever. So Yeti cup we will use in the brewery eventually, which brings me to our next point. If you look over here, we now have a brew house. So this brew house is new to us. Came from a brewery out of Greensboro, and we're gonna install this thing and plumb it up and get it working so that we can make whiskeys and maybe sometimes beers for upstairs. So that's sometime in our future. I'm not in a really big hurry for that one, but we have a brew house. This brew house will do 310, 350 gallons per shift. So maybe 700 gallons of beer a day if you're running a double batch. It's kind of a lot of beer. I mean, we don't really have that kind of a need, but for whiskey, we definitely do. So I'm excited to get this going so we can do whiskeys. Even though we are a rum distillery, that'll be kind of a side thing. So yeah, that's the brewery. We have a mixing room, a proofing room in this facility. So our old facility, we just put things where we could fit things. And when you really plan out and show people how you're building a facility, you can't get away with that. So this facility, we put all our mixing and proofing, all of our high proof alcohol, once it goes into a vessel over 5 gallons, goes into a special room. So in here is where we make our spiced rum and our coconut rum and where we fill barrels. This is where all the high proof stuff sits and lives until it's used for things and stuff. Here is our old mix tank. Our old mix tank has now been repurposed into a finished product tank. So instead of making mash in this vessel, now we make spiced rum in this vessel. We'll also make coconut rum, curacao, banana liqueur. All of our flavored stuff gets mixed in here and then it's pumped over to a holding tank. So you can see the holding tanks scattered throughout, and they stay here and live here forever. It's not like the old place where we might say we would take our spiced rum tank and we would roll it up to the bottle filler. Here it stays in one place and the liquor is actually pumped over into the filling equipment. So that's super cool and super safe. We keep everything in here. Everything's pumped with various explosion proof pumps, which is something that I really appreciate because we didn't even own our first explosion proof pump until we were over 10 years in business. I mean, this thing costs more than my car. It's just stupid. But it's safe. Before this, it was all siphoning for me, and I think that's really cool. So we have explosion-proof pumps. This is the pump we use to pump the spirit over to the bottle filler, and it's controlled by the bottle filler itself, which is in a completely other room. It's almost like witchcraft or magic to me that even works, but it's super cool. It all leaves the room from this pipe right here and comes across, and I'll show you that in a minute. The biggest, most importantest thing about this room is that it's explosion proof. So the ceiling is double layers of drywall separated by RC channel. We have mineral wool filling all air voids. Very expensive fire retardant. Well, it's insulation, and it fills all the cavities before we put the drywall up. All the penetrations are fire collared so that if the room catches on fire, it won't burn through the pipe, it'll actually close in on itself. The light fixtures have to be explosion proof. You can't have a light bulb breaking and creating a spark. There's special ventilation in this room that also is required to be explosion proof. Even the fire alarm bell, which if you look right here, is some obnoxiously over-engineered explosion proof device. And that has to be there because this room cannot be exposed to electrical spark. So the last and cool, weird thing about this room is if a fire is to break out, even the door that you're looking at here plays a role. This door has a what we call fusible link, which is a little lead strap that when melted, it automatically shuts us off to the rest of the world. So this is what happens if a fire breaks out in this room. I have an auxiliary exit, by the way. I won't just be consumed. So the last room in the facility to really brag about is the bottling room. This is where we package everything. The old facility was a bottling room and whatever else it needed to be in the moment. Here is just, this room is just dedicated to bottling and holding my lemon trees and avocados and pineapples, but mostly just bottling. So the cool thing about this room is that we don't ever have to transform it into something else. It can just serve that purpose. The spirits all come in, all the rum comes in from the explosion-proof room down the wall and into this pipe right here. And then as this machine requires more booze, it activates the pump in the other room and more booze is sent. And that is super, super, super cool. I absolutely love that feature. The bottles come down this bottling line like always. They're filled, they're labeled, and then the cap goes on the top of them and they're capped. And then we use all these tables for accumulation. You can see all of our labels down here. And this room is bright and awesome and RTB, ready to bottle, just like we put on our cards as we are. So the final move to CO, handicap parking and entryway. So this facility needed handicap accessibility. Our main floor is the second floor. So the factory has its own accessible routes and the office has its accessible routes. But to get the volume of people in here, we wanted to bring this kind of more up to date. So we made this nice big wide staircase where there used to be just a little metal staircase right here. And then we built this big ramp off to the side. And this ramp actually on paper looked massive, but in all reality, it's not so bad. So you could get up here from wheelchair accessibility, you can get to the main bar. And that was it. Once we had that, we were able to get a certificate of occupancy. The certificate of occupancy led us into changing our federal permits over and getting our state permits as a distillery. They are the same permits that we had in Belmont. So all we did was well, we had to do our state permits as if they were new, but we're under the same permit numbers. So we're still the oldest rum in the Carolinas and not just another rum distillery in addition to that. And yeah, we were able to open the doors to the bar June 22nd, and that was a awesome day. Lots of people showed up. We had this parking lot full all day. We had the bar full all day. We brought in a bunch of revenue, which was huge. Since we spent the last 2 years just pumping money into this place, it was really nice to have revenue coming in and to share this whole thing with everybody else. It's been awesome ever since. Just so you know, this place is still a work in progress, but it's cool. People come out here and they enjoy it, and it worked out as the plan said it would. So that's really cool. That's it. It's officially over.
That sounds so sad.
It's officially official. We're done with this series from Mill to Still. Put it to rest. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. If you're not caught up with everything, then go get caught up, or don't if you didn't like it. I think it's really cool. We have these videos, just like this mill will live on forever, we have these videos forever. And whether this ever becomes a huge popular series or not, I'm happy that we did it. It was a tough project. It had a lot of hard things that we had to go through and a lot of things that were very satisfying. And I haven't spent that much time stopping to really enjoy it. But it's here now, and I have the rest of my life to figure out how to enjoy it. And I'm glad other people enjoy it. So I hope you enjoyed everything. Check out the rest of it. Comment below. Stay in touch because we're gonna move from this into MRD TV. We're not done with YouTube, we're just done with the Mill to Still series. So We'll talk more about the factory. We'll talk more about what we do as a company. We'll talk more about the events and reasons to come here. It'll be more of a, you know, of a day-to-day instead of a synopsis kind of thing. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers. We'll see you on the next one. You got it? You good? Oh my God, I'm stuck!
Okay, I'm gonna start right here and then turn to him.
So, hide under the table. Just crouch down under the table. Are you recording?
Do you want me really close?
No.